Hello, and thank you for joining another webinar in Pipeline's ongoing KnowledgeCast series. I'm Scott St. John, the Executive Editor of Pipeline, and I'll be moderating today's presentation. Before we begin, just a few reminders. As usual, there will be a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. To submit a question, just type it in the Ask a Question area below the presentation window and click Submit. I encourage everybody to submit their questions during today's presentation so that we have a chance to address them at the end of the session. We also will have a couple of brief polling questions throughout the presentation, which I'll go over as we get to them. But these questions are a great way to interact with the presenter, so please participate to have your input included. This presentation can also be downloaded directly from your webcast console, and a link to the full archived webinar will be sent to you after today's session. If you have any technical issues, you can click the Help button on your console to access the help guide. And now we can get back into today's session. In today's webinar, Transforming the Telecommunications Enterprise Through Agility, we're going to explore ways service providers can leverage technology to bridge silos, harness innovation, improve product lifecycle management, as well as improve operational agility. Service providers today are faced with an unprecedented complexity and rate of change. With this, they always have to weigh the cost and risk of innovation against the potential reward. I'm joined today by Charles Rivet from IBM. Charles is part of IBM's Rational Frameworks and Industries team, where he's the industry offering manager responsible for the telecommunications sector. Hello, Charles.
Thank you, Scott. Good day, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. As Scott just mentioned, today we will discuss some of the trends affecting communication service providers, or CSPs, and how IBM Rational can help them transform their enterprise to gain agility in meeting the demands of these trends. IBM's Institute for Business Value recently released its 2012 CEO study, and as we can see here, some of the trends that have been observed in the discussions with executives of telecommunications enterprises. Each of these trends has a direct effect on the needs for these enterprises to be able to react more rapidly to a changing world. From the needs to break the silos in consolidated companies to the challenges of competition, especially from the more nimble internet-time OTT providers, to the realities of the explosion of mobile data and the increased voice given to customers by social media. Telecom enterprises need more than ever to quickly deliver what their customers need. This leads to the telecom CEOs having to consider and, in some cases, reconsider the answers to those typical questions. How do I differentiate my company in order to be able to compete? How do I break down the silos, especially within my newly consolidated companies, and empower my employees? How do I make sure my customers get what they need when they need it? And how can I increase the average revenue per user while at the same time decreasing the average cost per user? This is what we call, at IBM Rational, strategic transformation. And we'll start right away with our first poll. Scott? Okay, so our first poll is a simple question to keep in mind what we've just seen is your organization siloed, making contribution harder?
We'll just take a second for that, Charles. Thanks.
Okay.
I think this is an interesting question. I think not only do service providers, I think naturally become siloed as it relates to services. I think organizationally, there tends to be departmental lines between product development, marketing, network engineering. What do you feel, Charles?
Well, that is something that we've actually observed in quite a few enterprises. There are silos that are established just organically within the enterprises themselves, especially between the IT and network organizations. But more and more, we also start to see silos that occur because communication service providers are buying other service providers in other countries, and these form more geographical silos that are complementary to the organizational silos that we had seen before.
Excellent. So let's see the results of our poll here. Yeah, it's not a surprise. Does it surprise you at all, Charles?
No, not at all. The opposite answer would actually have surprised me a lot more. but I'm glad to see that this is a concern for a lot of people going forward.
Excellent.
So let's continue by looking at some of the pain points we have noticed. Of course, one of the pain points is this siloed organization, which I will discuss as we go through. But we've also noticed that one of the pain points is taking an idea and transforming it into a profitable product just takes too long and suffers from a lack of quality as a result of this. The successful communications provider needs to be able to get ideas from its user, form these into products that are aligned with its business objectives, evaluate the products to pick the ones that are most likely to succeed, and then implement and deliver them with quality. And now they have to do all of this in internet time. This may seem simple, but it is far from being so. Remember that CSPs are faced with the trends previously highlighted. Consolidation often creates silos that are impeding communications, in addition to the one that already often exists between the product management, IT, and network organizations. Nimble OTT provider and customer requests force the acceleration of new products and network capabilities to address the explosive growth in mobile data, often led by the move to fourth-generation technology such as LTE and LTE+. This forces the CSPs to deliver solutions faster in a more agile way. And compounding this, the trend towards outsourcing can also create silos and communication problems between the CSPs and their partners. Sorry. What this means is that CSPs must move from the left side of this chart to the right, abandoning the 12, 18, and sometimes even 24 months release cycles that existed 10, 15 years ago to align with the 6 to 10 week cycles required in internet time. And also, these are the cycles that are often expected by the customers who are used to seeing new products delivered quickly. This can be accomplished by CSPs adopting a more agile approach to product delivery, one that is a close match to the project profile seen on the right of the chart. This switch to rapidly delivering lots of innovative new products and services will require CSPs to transform their product delivery business processes. Our solution to this transformation is what we call the Product Delivery Performance Improvements, or PDPR, and we have a version of this PDPR that is specifically targeted at CSPs. In this partnership between CSPs and IBM Rational, we bring a set of best practices, processes, and tools to help our customers bridge the silos of their organization and those with their partners to better align their business requirements with the ideas to become business-aligned, customer-friendly products, and to implement those in time to bring value. This expertise spans both the business and development domains and addresses the needs of the OSS, BSS, network, IT, and product management organization, as well as those of both internal and external teams. And we have successfully used this approach with CSP customers already. On this slide, you can see how using this agile approach has improved the delivery time of products. This describes the product delivery performance, and we will see later in this presentation how we can also ensure that the right product is being developed. So if you look at these numbers, you will see that there was an over 50% improvement in the delivery life cycle. There was an 80% reduction in defects associated with the products being delivered, as well as a 33% reduction in delivery cost. Those are the big numbers that we've got, and these were actually an aggregate or an average of some of the products that we've been looking at. One of the most important aspects of any change in the delivery process is the ability to properly measure the improvements made to the process. IBM Rational has a Measured Capability Improvement Framework, or MCIF, which is a serving offering that, as part of the partnership with the CSP, makes measurements on the progress and compare these against the desired business outcome. This helps ensure proper governance of the whole development life cycle. This slide shows an example of various elements that are part of the MCIF and how business challenges, such as those seen earlier, can be mapped to operational objectives and to a set of best practices supported by instrumented and automated tools. First is that the service innovation lifecycle, that is, taking a new product from idea to launch and into profitable operation, takes too long, costs too much, and lacks sufficient capability. And that's what we see as the business challenge that has been selected. This can then be linked to the various operational objectives that are related to this business problem and that have been defined by the organization. From these operational objectives, we can look and define what practices would be best to adopt in order to address these objectives and these challenges. From there, we can leverage process and tool automation that are aligned with the industry needs, as well as ongoing adoption assessments in order to ensure success. For CSPs needing to become more agile in their product delivery, IBM enables what we call agility at scale. This is a business-driven approach to manage the end-to-end delivery of products, from understanding the business and its needs to definition, elaboration, and development of product, to their deployment into service for the customers and their management. From an IBM Rational perspective, we mostly concentrate on the model the business to the deploy phases in this diagram. Other parts of the diagrams are handled by other IBM divisions, such as WebSphere and Tivoli. This approach starts at the ideation stage, where we can gather ideas from the service innovation community, which is defined through our customers, but also internally to the organization. And that is done either through IBM's own tooling, such as IBM Connection shown here, or from social media through partner tools, such as those from Spigot and Bright Idea. We can then bring these ideas into IBM Rational Focal Point, where they can be translated into products and where a value-based collaborative approach is taken to analyze them against business requirements and technical feasibility. This approach takes information from various sources, from business and financial analysts, enterprise architects, and even from suppliers to ensure that the best products are taken forward for implementation. Of course, IBM Focal Point has integration with other tools such as Requirements Composer, System Architect, and Team Concert to ensure proper agility in the approach. As we can see here, the goal is to optimize the business value of our product investment by increasing the benefits, such as the average revenue per user, while reducing the cost, the average cost per user, and the risk. We can see here also some of the numbers that we have seen in the past by applying this approach at some of our customers, where we have had, in the end, a 20% higher higher margin in the market for some of the products that we've helped our customers deliver. Once the product and its requirements have been defined, as we have just seen, the development team can then build and deliver it. Once again, IBM Rational's tools provide CSPs with industry-specific capabilities to help them deliver communications-enabled applications, whether they are based on IBM Service Execution Platform or our competitors. Of course, we do support a closer integration with the capabilities provided as part of IBM's service provider delivery environment. And we can see here that we actually ensure that the collaboration is done through all of the people involved in the product delivery, from product manager to the service planner, to the solution architect, the developer, the quality assurance manager, as well as the operations manager who will be responsible for maintaining the application once it is deployed. The communication-enabled apps here also rely on a whole bunch of different standards, be them GSMA's One APIs, be them SIP, or any other standards that are very particular to the telecom industry, as well as some frameworks such as the TM Forum frameworks. And this leads us to the next question. This question is the next poll. This poll will ask the question, how important are telecom standards, for example, TM Forum frameworks, the NTAF or One API, to your company?
And this is a very interesting question. Each year we have our October Standards and Frameworks issue, and we talk to service providers and vendors alike. And it's interesting to see the various levels of embracement of these standards. There are some organizations that embrace them wholeheartedly, and then others who kind of view them as best practices or a guideline, and kind of a utopian scenario. What's been your experience with that, Charles?
It's also been very varied. For example, if I look at frameworks, we found that most, if not all, of our customers have been adopting ETOM globally in order to see how their business processes align. We've seen also some adoption with SID and less adoption with TAM in that framework. We've seen also that a lot of companies are looking at One API as well as the common marketplace efforts that are going on. We've seen less adoption on NTAF, so the network testing automation framework.
Interesting. Why do you think that is?
I think that NTAF might have been because there are less CSPs that are involved with that standard at this point. It is mostly the network equipment providers that have been really the driving force behind the NTAF at this point.
It does make sense, and frameworks, I think, has been increasing in adoption. I think we see that in a lot of service provider organizations, and the work that TMF is doing there definitely provides the right architecture for a lot of the problems service providers are facing today. And I find the evolution of that, some of the work that we saw in Dublin actually is helping address some of the questions and issues that service providers are facing today around next generation services. So.
Yeah, absolutely, and the efforts going on also to align frameworks with TOGAF, for example, are certainly contributing to all of that.
Great. Well, let's take a look at the answers from this poll, our results. I have to say I'm a bit surprised to see 100%, but I think it shows the importance of adoption of these standards. I think it's only going to increase as things get more complex and the rate of change picks up.
Yep.
All right. I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Thank you. So let's continue. Oh. Okay. So in light of that, we can see on this slide where we've got a lot of our products that are involved in the service creation. So this slide shows you all the tools that are offered by IBM Rational to accomplish the creation of services that are part. And this is what we call the IBM Rational Service Creation Platform. It provides specialized tooling for the complete development lifecycle, supported by our agile, smarter product delivery lifecycle management platform. In each phase of the development, these tools are further enhanced for telecom application through support for various telecom-specific frameworks and standards, such as IBM's PD, TM Forum frameworks, and GSMA's One API. And if you look closely at this slide here, which is fairly busy, I will admit, you can see at the bottom of each silo, be it service concept and definition to service deployment, the standards that we explicitly support in each of these silos and where they are applicable. So you will see the frameworks that we've talked about in the poll, such as the TM Forum frameworks, as well as GSMA One API, but also a whole bunch of other standards that are applicable to the telecom industry. Another interesting aspect here is, as part of our smarter product delivery lifecycle management, we do have process customizations that are directly aligned with things that the telecom industry are doing. One of those being the Rational Unified Process for Web 2.0 Enterprise Mobility apps, which handles both the service creation but also the mobile application development. We also have specific processes aligned with agile development that are certainly applicable in this scenario. One of these solutions is the use of IBM Rational System Architect to get a true picture of the network system and the OSS-BSS interactions. This approach is based both on the industry standard TM Forum frameworks and, for example, 3GPP's LTE and LTE Plus models for next-generation network architecture, both of these being supported as part of that tool. This approach ensures that the consolidated network are efficient and that the impact of changes is properly understood. And by that we mean that you can model and have a complete, true picture not only of your network system and your IT and your OSS, BSS, but also of your enterprise. And when you want to add a new service in there, you can rely on that to make sure that the cost of implementation of that service is properly reflected in the decision process made to define which product to build. This allows you to make sure that you save money by being able to reuse elements of your architecture, avoid costs that would not necessarily be useful, and increase efficiency and reuse throughout your enterprise. I've already mentioned and we've already talked about our support for TM Forum frameworks, and I'm pretty sure that everybody on this call has an understanding of what frameworks is all about. This support can be found mainly in two of our tools, and we are in fact working on increasing this in collaboration with the TM Forum. IBM Rational System Architect provides support for all four of the frameworks that make up TM Forum frameworks: ETOM, SID, PAM, as well as the integration framework. IBM Rational Software Architect, on the other side, also provides support for ETOM and SID, and this ensures that SOA-based service implementation conform to the process and information models that have been defined at a higher level in System Architect. Which leads us to the Rational Solution for OSS-BSS Lifecycle Management. We already saw a few slides back how we can use System Architect to ensure that the network and OSS-BSS systems are in sync. Here you can see how IBM Rational tools can be used to rationalize an unwieldy OSS-BSS with siloed IT systems supporting different network services and technologies. This can be especially important when you think about the consolidation and the acquisition that are being made by CSPs worldwide. In order to accomplish that, you have the steps that are shown here. These tools enable you to help transforming the IT service layer to make sure that it is agile, that it is reusable. It helps you applying SOA and an agility at scale for greater flexibility and reuse, as well as being more responsive to your customer and your business demands. It leverages the TM Forum frameworks, and it also allows you to manage the outsourcing of transformation and integration projects, both to system integrator as well as partners. And we have seen a lot of this outsourcing happening within communications service providers. Our collaboration platform certainly enables a better collaboration both inside the enterprise as well as with any partners and system integrators. Here we can see a more operational view of the approach that was just described, starting with the TM Forum frameworks-based actionable architecture at the top left, based on System Architect, moving into service and process implementation, where we see on the second layer there, where we both have on the left the service-oriented architecture based on RSA, as well as web services defined in RSA and RAD, so Rational Software Architect as well as Rational Application Developer. And in the middle below that, the business process management, distributed in this case what we're showing is really the IBM platform, so the IBM Business Process Management platform. But another platform or competitive tools can be used as a target platform for business process management. The important thing here is all of that is implemented in an agile, plug-and-play, integrated way in order for new services and products to be more quickly deployed, more quickly implemented, and to ensure better quality, both in the product, both so that the product serves its intended purpose, but it serves this purpose correctly. And of course, all of this is supported by IBM's Agility at Scale collaborative lifecycle management and processes. I already mentioned this a bit earlier, but IBM does offer complete, accelerated, scalable application lifecycle management for mobile device. We not only deal with the ISS, BSS services and network implementation, but we also provide tooling that allows you to develop these applications for mobile devices. The use of the same tools, both to define the APIs, to define the services, and to define the mobile device application, ensures that you've got complete compatibility between the services and the APIs defined on both sides of the network barrier. That enables both the CSPs and its partners to take advantage of the product, services, and exposed network APIs to build leading-edge mobile applications. And of course, given the ongoing concern about mobile security, IBM offers tools to ensure that the services and APIs provided and the applications making use of them are properly tested and secured from the time they are coded to their deployment in a production environment. And this is done through IBM AppScan, which used to be a Rational product, but is now offered widely within IBM. It provides you both with static analysis during coding, as well as dynamic and hybrid analysis throughout the life cycle of the testing of the application. In conclusion, in order to stay competitive, CSPs must transform their enterprise in order to meet its challenges. Consolidation, competition, mobile data, and customer needs by breaking down the silos in the organization to ensure collaboration, and by becoming more agile in delivering the right products at the right time. A partnership with IBM Rational can help you meet these goals. And this concludes my part of this webinar. I will now be open for questions. Scott?
Thanks, Charles. I appreciate that. Great information. And one question that's come up a couple of times, and going back to the earlier part of your presentation, has to do with the metrics that service providers are tracking. Can you tell me a little bit about how IBM is helping service provider enterprises define what metrics they should be tracking in order to measure results?
Hello? Okay. So yes. So one of the things that we actually do is, and I mentioned like previously, is this all measured capability improvement frameworks. And as part of this offering, as part of this service offering, we do go and calculate a whole bunch of metrics in order to get a complete picture. These metrics can be anything from defining time to market to the quality, number of defects, to the time it takes to do implementation, to the deployment aspects, such as how many customers are using it, are there any problems that have been reported, through the whole gamut of agile development metrics, such as the result of daily scrums and reflections, the results of early testing. So there's a whole bunch of metrics that we can use. The question then becomes, from an organizational perspective, we need to work with the CSPs in order to define which are the metrics that are best suited to meet their operational objectives and their business challenges.
Excellent. Thanks. The next question we have is, how do you see the popularity of cloud technologies affecting this approach?
And that's a very good question. Clouds are pretty much everywhere these days, and it is given that the communication service providers already have a very good network infrastructure in order to be able to support this. They've been subject to the 5.9 availability requirements for ages, and they actually know how to run complex network, and being able to support cloud that way is certainly something that they should consider if they're not doing it already. But from my perspective here, and how we can use cloud in the development of these applications, the development of these products, is all about collaboration. Clouds, whether they are private, public, or hybrid, can actually provide tools to a whole lot of the partners and the integrators and the consultants that are very often hired in order to do these implementations, to implement these new products, to implement these new services. By providing all of these tools in a cloud environment, you open up the communication channels, you open up the collaboration channels, you make the whole agility a lot higher, a lot faster than if you were to simply throw documents through emails over a wall, and you do not have the visibility that everyone working in the same collaborative lifecycle management environment can provide.
Absolutely. When you're talking about collaboration, you have to have that consolidated platform and ability for everybody to have visibility into the project or product, in this case, as it moves forward. Looking at interoperability, the next question talks about the IBM solutions we're discussing on today's webinar, and if they can be used with non-IBM runtimes.
Yes, absolutely. Of course, Rational being part of IBM, we do have to support and provide better support for our own applications and our own runtime. But as part of our work, we do have tooling that would, for example, support an Oracle BPM runtime or web services runtime and other runtimes. We've also been working with some of the service providers, the OSS/BSS service vendors, in order to improve our integration with them so that we can actually accelerate the implementation of those third-party services within a CSP and within the framework that we're using.
I imagine standards enter the picture there as well.
Absolutely. Standard is a big point. Whether they are the communication web services standards like One API, or whether they are the frameworks like the Forum framework and the enterprise architecture and system architecture standards, those are certainly a big improvement there, as well as the work that's being done both by Forum and other organizations in order to facilitate the interchange of models and capabilities between tools that implement the same standards.
So tell me a little bit more about testing. As you're doing collaboration from internal and external sources, how are you testing these solutions?
Very good question, but I will turn that a little bit, and I'm going to be talking more about quality assurance as opposed to just testing being part of the overall look at quality assurance. And our view here is that quality assurance really exists in two very specific areas. I don't know if anybody is familiar with the V diagram for system development, for software development, where you've got an iterative development down the left side of the V to actually build the software, the services, and then up the other side of the V in order to do the quality of it. Well, we see a lot of the quality assurance existing at both the top of the V's, so the left side and the right side. The left side of the V is the quality of the requirements, the quality of looking at, are the requirements really what the customer wants, what is we want to build, but also, are these requirements testable? Can we do something with them? And then we need to tie that with the other side of the V where the actual execution of the tests occur, where we define the test in order to ensure that these requirements are met and that the product that is delivered does the right thing and does the thing right. So we do have, as part of our collaborative lifecycle management platform, we do have a tool called Rational Quality Manager, which ensures that we can link the requirements through the test environments to the test case to the actual test and ensure that we've got quality throughout the life cycle. Now on top of that, of course, that's just the management of the quality, but we also have to ensure that we've got the right tools, and we do have testing tools that are specially targeted to the communication service provider. We have tools for testing, for example, SOA compliance, but we also have tools that test for some of the standards we were talking about. I'm thinking here, for example, we have tools to test again for SIP compliance, for example. And all of these can provide the information back into Quality Manager for analysis, to get business intelligence out of all of these and some of the metrics that we were talking about more recently. And bring all of that together so we have a complete view of what the quality of the product is from requirements to final in production testing.
Yeah, it's so valuable, and not only testing for quality along the way, but also having the industry-specific tools to test standards compliance and things of that nature. It is critically important.
Absolutely. And we're also partnering with some of the more hardware testing companies to ensure that our tooling, our software tooling works with their hardware tooling. One of those companies, for example, is Spirent, where we've got a partnership with them in order to ensure that we can both drive the tests from their hardware as well as get all the information back as part of the testing. And we've also been considering what we want to do with NTAF going forward.
Well, thank you, Charles, for answering that question. I have one last question, so a reminder to the audience, if anybody has any questions regarding the material today or a question for Charles, go ahead and submit it using the Q&A console on your presentation window, and we'll try to get that addressed on today's session. The last question I have here is if you could provide more details on how you see the collaboration with partners and suppliers unfolding.
Yes, and that's a big one. One of the things that came out of the CEO study and that I haven't talked about in this presentation is that the telecom CEOs see outsourcing and working with partners as one of their top challenges going forward. As you probably know, there's a lot of CSPs out there who have hired other network equipment providers to provide some of their services as well as independent companies in order to help them with that. And of course, collaboration in this environment is extremely important. I've already mentioned some of that with my answers to the cloud question earlier, and that's certainly a very important aspect. But also, we need to make sure that the collaboration occurs both inside and outside, and we need to ensure that the collaboration is not only for the development of the software part, so the services and the APIs and so forth, but we need to extend that also to all the suppliers of the communication service providers. And we need to ensure that this collaboration goes also to the hardware suppliers. Communication service providers will order equipment from the network equipment providers, the communication equipment providers, the mobile equipment providers, whatever you want to name them. And typically they would have requirements that need to be met, either physical requirements or communication requirements, as well as customization on this equipment to better fit within their old network infrastructure. Typically, again, this was done by writing lengthy specs and moving them across the platform, and when the equipment comes in, hoping that it actually meets the need in their test labs as well as when it's deployed. what we want to propose here is say, well, this is all fine, but we can use the same collaboration lifecycle management platform that we have for software and extend that to deal with hardware or systems of systems environment. So that when we provide the requirements for the hardware, they can be stored as requirements in our tools and then shared again through, for example, a private cloud or hybrid cloud in order to be used by the network equipment provider to provide the results as well as the results of the tests and all that, so that there is a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month view of what's happening with the equipment that is going to be put in service. So this collaboration lifecycle management platform is not only for software, it is also for hardware. It's not only internal. It's not only internal and partners. It is for internally partners as well as suppliers.
And I think you hit it on the head. I think in order to collaborate truly with partners and suppliers, it has to be an open environment, but yet consolidated so that everybody's sharing the same information and on the same page.
Yeah, and you've probably seen recently with the IBM announcement with regards to all the open environment with regards to collaboration, that IBM is both providing tooling as well as supporting new tooling. This is certainly a direction in which we're going.
Excellent. Thanks. Looks like that's our final question for today's webinar. So I want to thank everyone for attending. Thanks to our presenter, Charles, from IBM. And I hope everyone found it informative and great information on IBM's Rational software product. We look forward to seeing you on a future Pipeline KnowledgeCast webinar, and the link to the presentation will be sent to you after this, as well as it's available for download through your presentation console. IBM's provided some links here for future reference, which you can look at and peruse after the session has ended. And thanks once again, everyone, for your participation.